eyes can be closed or downcast. And I'd like to offer you a short reading about ahimsa. And ahimsa is one of the yamas and niyamas that are from the 8 limbs of yoga. So this is our way of living. So take a moment just to get settled first. So close the eyes, tuck the chin, and pause. I always like to offer I always call it food for thought for your practice, something to think about while you're moving through the practice, while you're holding postures. And today I would love to encourage you, excuse me, to think about ahimsa, which translates to non-harming. Like the body, the mind and soul need time to digest and assimilate. Like the body, the mind and soul need time to rest. We create this rest by allowing space that we can breathe in. Not more clutter, but more space. Space to reflect, space to journal, space for closure, space for imagination, and space to feel the calling of the life force within us. Balance does not look a certain way because it isn't a set standard to impose upon ourselves. It's not something we can plan or schedule. Balance instead comes from listening. Listening to the guidance and wisdom of the inner voice. Balance will look different in each of us, and even different in each of us at different times. To be in tune with ourselves, we must get quiet and listen, and then heed this inner voice. This voice does not push or bombard or make promises. This inner wisdom simply knows what we need to be vital, to be healthy, and in deep harmony. And the philosophy tells us or presents to us as an option for how we live, that when we find these spaces of time to come into balance or harmony and to listen to the inner voice or inner wisdom, then we can practice ahimsa or non-harming. And it always starts with ourselves, and then we're able to spread it to those around us. And it always comes back, every yogic philosophy always comes back to the same idea. Get quiet. Pause, slow down, listen. You have so much wisdom within you that you're not tapping into because we're so busy. We're bombarded by information. But we have that wisdom. And we just have to learn how to plug into it or to tap into it. And our yoga practice, our physical yoga practice, gives us those moments where we can tap in and we can listen. So, let's get started. I like to start in child's pose. So, big toes to touch. Knees can be just a little bit wider than hip distance, and we're going to walk the arms out long in front. If your forehead doesn't come down, please have a block or a blanket underneath the forehead so that you can lengthen your spine, and think about reaching the arms away from you, so stretching them out. The distance between your hands you can adjust depending on what's going on in the shoulders. And we'll come here to start, where we can settle the breath and quiet the mind. As you come to settle in your child's pose, I'm going to ask you to try to make your breath as quiet as possible so that not even yourself can hear the breath. Super soft, super quiet, and try to lengthen the breath. Imagine that you're trying not to disturb the air around the front of your nose or your face. Super soft, super quiet, and from that try to relax the body as much as you can and just sink into the shape you've created and settle into your soft, quiet breath. We'll be here for about another 5 to 10 cycles of your natural breath. Lift your head just slightly off of the mat or the floor and start to walk your hands to your left. They don't have to go super far, but I want you to emphasize the action of reaching the hands out and then see if you can bring your right hand to rest on your left hand. Now your forehead may stay lifted. You may also need to rest your forehead on your arms, or your forehead may come back down to the floor. Breathe deeply into the right hand side of your ribs as you reach the arms out and away from the body. Lifting the forehead again, we're going to walk through center, bringing the hands now to the right hand side, emphasizing again that reaching sensation of taking your hands farther away, and perhaps the left hand can come to rest on the right, and forehead again is either resting on the arms, on the floor, or you're holding it up off the floor. Lift the head, walk the hands back to center, and then just walk them towards you so that you're more upright. You can adjust the knees or take a little break if you need it. We're going to go into a twist now from our child's pose. We're going to start by bringing the left hand underneath the right so that the left ear, the left shoulder can come all the way back down. If your ear doesn't come all the way down, a block or a blanket underneath will give you the support you need. And we're wanting the rotation in the upper back. So your left palm is up, left ear is down, right hand can go wherever you need it for support. begin to unwind, come back to center, and we'll go to the other side. So if that was awkward for you to have your head resting, just bring the blanket or prop underneath. Right arm now comes underneath the left, right ear, right shoulder coming down. Left hand is your support. And we're going to start to unwind, come back to center. Rise up into tabletop, bring your knees back underneath you, really nice and close together, and just let your hips rock from side to side. And we're coming back to center, big toes still touching. This time you may have to turn sideways on your mat if you run out of padding. We're going to take the knees as wide as we can tolerate. This is our tadpole pose. So toes are touching, big toes touching, knees super wide, walking your arms back out again into your child's pose. So emphasizing the nice release and stretch to the inner thighs, lengthening the spine, lengthening the arms. Again, bringing a prop underneath any part of the body that needs additional support. Rising back up, we're adding on here, so if the next pose isn't right for you, you're coming back to where we are now. We're moving from tadpole into frog. I'm just going to turn sideways so that it's easier to see. From here, your knees are wide, your big toes are touching. You're going to open your feet and bring the insides of your ankles down to the floor. So you'll look like a biology frog that's been pinned. Knees could go wider, feet could go wider. And then you're letting your hips be over top of the knees as you lower yourself down. Now, once you've lowered down, you could press your hips back. You'll feel a different sensation through the inner thighs and through the hips. You could also let your hips go forward. If you need movement, you could rock gently forward and back. And just a reminder that it's the insides of the ankles that are on the floor. Insides of the knees are down. And you're taking your knees as wide as you can tolerate with a certain degree of comfort. And then again, you're either holding strong and steady, or you can have a little bit of a rock or movement forward and back. We're going to hold here for about a minute. So if you need to come out, you go back into a narrow-kneed child's pose. Now the last few breaths and minutes, maybe not minutes, moments left in this posture. Try to go back to think just a little bit about the idea or the philosophy of living your life with non-harming, of trying to create balance, kindness, and it always starts with ourselves. And the easiest way to cultivate that is to have quiet moments, whether you are in meditation or in your yoga practice or out in nature going for a walk, having a cup of tea. Anytime where you get to just really pay attention to what you're thinking and feeling, you'll have a lot of clarity come from those moments. So we'll just be here for a little bit longer. The body and the mind are always linked. Perhaps as you've been holding your frog pose, you're getting some new information about your hips, your inner thighs, whether or not this is comfortable or uncomfortable for you, and that's knowledge. And it's the same with our mind. When we pause and we just focus on something, we get more knowledge, more wisdom that we can then use to make better decisions. So take your time moving back up onto the hands. Easiest way to get yourself out of this is to bring the heels back together and then inch the knees back together. We're going to meet in narrow-kneed child's pose, so knees all the way together, letting the hips glide back towards the heels, and maybe this time taking the hands back towards the feet, forehead coming to the mat or a prop. We're going to rise up and meet back in tabletop. Once you come into your tabletop, take your knees just slightly farther apart so that they're underneath the hips. Keep your arms strong and straight. Shift all the weight to your left knee, lift your right, and then start to circle the right knee. We want to get a nice big range of motion through the right hip. You can alternate the direction. You can start slow and small and gradually make the movement bigger or faster. Keep the core nice and toned, arms again evenly weighted. And then just bring the right knee back underneath your right hip. It's still lifted off to your mat. Pull the knee underneath your chest, round your spine, and pull nose to knees as best you can. And then release and extend the right leg behind you so it's parallel to the floor. Pull the low belly in and up, push out through the right heel, hold here. And then draw the right knee back underneath your chest, round your back, nose to knee. Release and circle the right knee one more time. Both directions. And we'll come back to our tabletop. We'll switch to the other side. So circles first with the left knee. Both directions. Coming back so that the knee is underneath your hip, we'll pull nose to knee, round the upper back. And release to extend the left leg back. Just parallel to the floor, foot is strongly flexed, pushing out through the heel. Crown of the head reaching forward, belly is firm and pulling up. Back, nose to knee, underneath you, round the spine. And releasing to again circle the left knee. And coming back to tabletop. We're going to rise up into our downward facing dog. Lift the knees, lift the hips, press the heels down to your mat, move around. So bend one knee, bend the other. Once you've come back to hold your downward facing dog, I'd like you to walk your hands back to your feet. So you'll be at the back of your mat in a forward fold. Relax the upper body. Bringing your hands back out in front of you, lower your knees to the mat. So you're going to come to stand on your knees. Hands will be up off the floor. We're going to step the right foot off to the side. So coming into our gate pose. Right leg coming straight up to the hip, toes are pointing forward, shoulders stacked over hips. Right hand can slide down the right leg, left arm reaches up, and your side bending over towards the right leg. Inhale, rise up, bring your right knee back underneath you, and switch sides. Left leg out, strong and straight, hips over knees, shoulders over hips. Left hand down the leg, right arm reaches up and over. Inhale, rise up. Come back so that you're standing on your knees. And bring your hands out in front of you so that you can come into plank on the knees. Let the weight roll forward. Hold here. Nice, strong, straight line to the back of the shoulders, to the back of the knees. We're going to do 10 mini little push-ups. So elbow points go straight back. You're going down and pressing up. You're going to count out your 10. Hold at the top when you're done your 10. And then we're going to firm through the belly so we can lower all the way down. Hands are going to stay under the shoulders or slightly back farther towards the waist. Your legs can lift and lengthen behind you a couple times. And then you're going to press down to the tops of your feet so that the knees actually lift off the floor. You're pressing down through the hip bones. We're going to do our 5 rolling cobras. Inhaling, lifting away from the floor. Exhale, rolling back down. You're going to count out your own 5. When you've completed your 5, we're going to meet back down. You're going to push into knees and hands to go back up to plank on the knees. Hold. Tap the toes, lift up, down dog. From down dog again, we're walking our hands back to meet the feet. You're going to be in a forward fold. This time, bend the knees, swoop the arms all the way up, full body stretch. And exhale, come all the way right back down, forward fold. Walk the hands forward, bring your knees down. Rise up, right foot up to the side, gate pose. Right hand down the leg, left arm reaching up and over, side bend. Rising up, switch sides, left leg out, gate pose. Side bending to your left. Coming back up, standing on the knees, hands out in front, plank on the knees. Elbow points again are going straight back. You're going to do your 10 mini push-ups. Take your time, count them out on your own. Holding at the top when you're done. We'll lower to the belly. Reset the legs, remembering that knees should be lifted off the floor so that your thighs are engaged, the tops of your feet are pressing. And we're doing 5 rolling cobras. Think of inhaling to lift up, exhaling to roll down. Releasing, holding at the bottom. Press the knees down now. Press into hands from the belly. Press to plank on the knees. Tuck the toes, down dog. Walk hands to feet, forward fold, back of the mat. Bend the knees, swoop the arms all the way up, full body stretch. And then right away, go back down, forward fold. Walk the hands forward, bring the knees to the mat. Rising up, right foot out, gate pose, side bending to the right. Rising up, switching sides, left leg out, side bend to the left. Coming up, back to stand on your knees, hands come to the mat, we're back into plank on the knees. Last round of 10 mini push-ups. You can do lifting the knees, full plank push-ups. You can do whatever version. Just do 10 little pulses. Holding at the top when you're done. Keep the belly firm as you lower to the belly. Lift the knees by pressing down to the tops of your feet. 5 rolling cobras. Inhale up. Exhale down. Meeting down, you're going to press into knees and hands, go back up, plank on the knees. Tuck the toes, down dog. Walking the hands to the feet, forward fold, back of the mat. Bend the knees, swoop the arms all the way up, big full body stretch. And releasing the hands down, Tadasana. From the Tadasana at the back of your mat, let your hands slide down the front of the legs. We'll come back down into our forward fold. We're going to do our dangling posture. So the hands can either rest on the shins or on the floor on props. You could also just grab opposite elbows and let the body be really relaxed. And you're just going to modify by perhaps bending the knees deeper or straightening the legs. If you wanted to make it more active, you could hang onto the backs of your calves or your Achilles and pull yourself down. So you've got lots of options, lots of variations to play with. Choose the one that's appropriate for you. And then we're going to stay here, letting the mind be quiet and come into some contemplation with a soft, quiet breath. Now we're going to release the fingertips onto the floor out in front of the feet. Heel toe your feet wider until you can turn your toes out, your heels in preparation for our yogi squat. So options here are to just bend the knees and rest the forearms on the thighs. You could also bend the knees more generously, come down. You might need to sit on props. You might have your heels lifted, all fine. Roll that blanket under the heels if you need it. Other last option is to come all the way down, feet out in front, nice tall spine. So choose your version or your variation that's going to be the right one for you. And we'll settle into our squat. If at any time you need to come out, you rise up, perhaps going back into dangling or forward fold, move around. You can always come back down if you can rejoin. Hands can be out in front or you can have them up and lifted. Wherever you're at, do try to create the same sensation of having good posture. So lengthening the spine, shoulders down, neck long, soft facial muscles. Perhaps the eyes are even closed. And then again, just finding a moment to be quiet and still. Trying to get access to your inner wisdom. Fluttering the eyes open, bringing your hands to the floor in front of you, whatever version you're in, and lifting your seat up, coming into your forward fold again. You can move around a little bit as you first rise up. And then we're gonna walk the feet even wider. So if you're not sideways on your mat, you could turn sideways. Walk your feet out until you're in a nice wide forward fold. And then you can choose what to do with the upper body. Maybe you stay on your hands, maybe you come down onto props or onto the forearms. If you are able, you could perhaps even rest the top of your head onto the floor or onto a prop so you get the same sensation. And we're gonna hold here in our wide-legged forward fold. Again, see if we can think of it as like plugging yourself into the internet and downloading information. We have all this knowledge and we just need to be able to access it. So quiet times in contemplation are like plugging yourself into the internet. Be mindful if the outsides of the ankles get sore, walk your feet back in. If you need to come out of the pose, again, heel toe the feet together, take a break, join back in when you can. Wherever you found yourself, get your hands back underneath the shoulders, heel toe the feet back together until you can come back into a forward fold. Any distance between your feet that's comfortable. Take a break, just fold down. And then letting your knees bend until you can come all the way down to sit. And you can turn yourself on your mat if you were sideways so that you can extend your legs out in front. Rock around a little bit. Alright, so once you're comfortable here, we're going to go into our caterpillar pose, both folding over this forward straight legs. Add any props that you need for support, where it's under your sit bones, under the knees, or on top of the legs. And we'll go forward and settle in for our hold. Try again to go back to the breath of ease, which is a breath that you can't hear. It's very soft and very slow. Should be very soothing and comfortable. And it might help to imagine that you're trying not to disturb the air in front of you. When we're practicing this breath in pranayama practice, we would have a candle out in front, and we would try not to let the candle flame flicker or move. Another technique is to hang like a very fine piece of gauze in front of the face, breathing and trying not to let the breath move the gauze. So have that even as an image as you're in your forward fold, And see if you can make the breath very, very soft and very, very quiet. And then let the rest of the body, again, mimic that by being very soft and quiet. We'll hold here. And allow yourself to rise back up. And the next posture doesn't always work for everybody, so I'll give a couple variations. If you have a strap nearby that might be of assistance for those of you who have knee challenges. So what I'd like you to be able to at least attempt or try is to bring your right foot back right alongside the right hip. Sometimes if you lean over to the side and you just roll your calf muscle away from you, you can get your heel alongside your hip. Other option is to have a blanket or a prop underneath the left side so that there's less compression through the knee. Last option, if this is almost working, is to have something like a strap or even an eye pillow or a face cloth, and you place it behind the knee and then close the knee joint. And that's just going to give you a bit more space so that closing the knee joint is more comfortable for you. If none of those options work, the knee just does not want to do this, then your option is to come so that the knee is more out in front with a hip external rotation. So choose wisely. If you can get the heel alongside your hip, great, you may need the props. And then again, we're going to fold forward. So hands out in front, you can use props to support you. You may feel like you're kind of leaning to one side. You might need to have like even just a folded blanket over the one side so that you feel more evenly weighted. And then we'll come forward. We're just going to spend a little bit of time going forward, and then we're actually going to try to see if we can go back. We'll start here, nice, slow, even deep breath. Again, a very quiet, soft breath if you can manage. We're going to rise up, and even if you've got a prop underneath you, you should be able to manage this a little bit. So hands would go behind you. They could also come onto a blanket or a prop just to give you a bit more lift. And then you're going to start to lean back. You may feel like it would be a benefit to lift the hips, squeeze the glutes and tuck them underneath you, and then allow yourself to go back a little farther. Maybe you can get back onto forearms, or maybe you are comfortable coming all the way onto your back. Our emphasis or our hope here is to get a really nice stretch from the quad and through the hip flexor, but we don't want to damage the knee in the process, so you're going to be really mindful about this. If this isn't going to work but you want something similar, you could come to lie on your side and maybe coming into your quad stretch here. So choose what's going to work for you, and then we'll hold here as best we can. Know that you can come in and out as many times as you need. And we'll just see if we can stay here for a little bit longer. However far you've managed to get back, start to work your way back up. And I forgot to mention that if you're on a prop, you're not going to go all the way back onto your back. You would just go back to wherever you could tolerate onto your hands or your forearms. Once you're back up, we'll extend the right leg back out, and we'll see if we can repeat that on the other side. Left foot coming back alongside the outside of the hip. Again, rolling the calf muscle out will give you a bit more space. Perhaps adding that spacer behind the knee, or coming onto a prop on the right side. We'll be going forward first. That's the last few breaths here. Rising up and seeing if we can make the transition to leaning back now. Again, you're going to be really mindful, especially if you have props underneath you, as to how far you go back. Again, option is to come onto your side and do a quad stretch from there. And use as many props as you require. Focus again is on the quad stretch of the bent knee side and the hip flexor. For me, to get a little bit more sensation, I think about pressing down through the bent knee as I lift the hips, a little bit of a pelvic tilt or tip, and then easing my way back. So again, be careful, be safe, hold where you can, and remember you're not going to go all the way onto your back if you've got a prop underneath your sit bones or your pelvis. if you're gone onto your back or you're leaning back, you're going to start to rise up. If you're on your side in your quad stretch, you can again make your way back up. We'll unravel the legs out in front, move around a little bit. And we'll move into our last pose. It's going to be our shoelace, so wonderful stretch for the outer hips. Choose which leg you want on the bottom. It's going to be at a bend. And then the top leg will come over top of it. So we're stacking the knees on top of each other. They'll look like they've been tied like a shoelace. Options are to lift your hips, kind of move around and try to evenly weight down through the sit bones. If your legs just don't want to go into this shape, it's the bottom leg that would be straight. And the top knee would be coming to rest on the bottom knee. If you can get your legs back here, your options are to have your legs going out to the sides of your mat or to pull the heels back towards the hips. Then it's a matter of evenly weighting the sit bones and staying upright, or adding a forward fold if you want more sensation, and we'll hold here. If you have gone forward, you'll rise up and we'll switch the legs. So opposite leg on the bottom. Maybe it's straight, maybe it's bent. We're going to lift the hips, adjust the sit bones again so that they're evenly weighted. You may need a little prop on one side. Choose the angle of your legs and your top knee. Again, you're either staying upright, working on your posture, or you're adding the forward fold to create more sensation. We'll hold here. If you've gone forward, you're going to rise up. We'll unravel the legs and they'll be going out in front. If you have a block or a blanket, have that nearby. We're going to wake our way onto the back. You can start by bringing these into chest. And just gently rocking side to side. Once you've moved enough, you're going to bring your feet to the floor. Lift your hips, slide your prop underneath your pelvis or your hips. Adjust your shoulder blades. Hands will be down alongside your hips. Option to stay right here, just letting things relax and soften. You may want to take your feet wider, let the knees knock together. Or as an alternative, you could take your feet and legs up towards the ceiling. They don't have to be perfectly straight. You could have a bend in them. They could go wide, anywhere that they naturally want to be able to rest. And this is where I'm going to come back up to seated, but I'd like you to stay where you are. If this doesn't work for your final rest, of course, come off the prop and find your way into Shavasana or on your back. Ideally, you would be able to spend as much time here as you require in order to come into that place of being contemplative, very quiet, very still. You'll again work on that beautiful, soft, very quiet breath. And see if you can plug yourself into the internet that's within you, the inner wisdom. And I'm going to leave you with the reading again, just to see if it has percolated while you've been moving through your yoga practice, and maybe the words a second time will find some resonance with you. Like the body, the mind and soul need time to digest and assimilate. Like the body, the mind and soul need time to rest. We create this rest by allowing space that we can breathe in. Not more clutter, but more space. Space to reflect, space to journal, space for closure, space for imagination, and space to feel the calling of the life force within us. Balance in life does not look a certain way because it isn't a set standard to impose upon ourselves. It's not something we can plan or schedule. Balance instead comes from listening. Listening to the guidance and the wisdom of our inner voice. Balance will look different in each of us, and even different in each of us at different times. To be in tune with ourselves, we must get quiet and listen, and then heed this inner voice. This voice does not push or bombard or make promises. This inner wisdom simply knows what we need to be vital, healthy, and in deep harmony. Please, I invite you to stay as long as you can in this quiet, contemplative state, working on your beautiful, soft, quiet breath. And when you feel the need to start to move and get on with the rest of your day or your evening, do so gently, with compassion, and with keeping that cord plugged into your inner wisdom or your inner voice. Thank you for allowing me to guide your practice. I hope you have an amazing day. Namaste.